Hey everyone, it's Alex, and you're listening to the Everyday Stories podcast, a podcast about the everyday stories from the people you know and the people you don't know, here to help you learn a thing or two about life and the stories that define us. Today we're talking to CHARLiiE, a multidimensional creator and the visionary behind Light to Lead, a platform dedicated to collective awakening and the journey of coming to self. She's also an attorney, an Air Force veteran, and a clinically trained social worker, a path that led her through systems of structure, service, and survival, only to return home to the deepest truth of who she really is. With a voice rooted in lived experience and a heart devoted to the fullness of the human journey, CHARLiiE invites others into a space of remembrance, liberation, and radical self-acceptance. Her work speaks to what it means to be radically human, to stop chasing who we think we should be and instead remember who we've always been. CHARLiiE, welcome to the podcast.
So excited to be here. It
The
feels like a
the
hug.
bio, oh my gosh, the bio that you sent me was the most well-written bio. And most of the time when people send me their bios, I have to cut down a lot of the jargon. But for yours, I was like, this is so, I just love what you wrote in it and I wanted to keep all of it. So I just read it as is. But again, so excited to meet you. So excited to get into our conversation here and really talking about like what it means to be free, what is freedom, and like kind of tying that back into what you're doing today. So, first thing is I know that you had sent me that you used to say, I just want to be free.
Mhm.
And at the time, what did this statement mean to you, and what does it actually mean now?
So interestingly enough, I feel like a lot of times like our soul can give us prayers. And so when I started saying I just want to be free, it just came out of me. So I had no idea what I was even talking about. I just kept saying it. And then at my law school graduation, I had said it like around my friends and it was like, you're out of the military. How much more free do you want to be? And for the first time, it made me pause because I never even thought about like what it even meant. Um, but as like time went on and the more and more I started to like awaken to the fact that like I was living a life that didn't feel good, I realized like freedom really means coming home to who you are, like really living in an intuitive way. Like forget all the rules, forget like how I think I should show up, forget about what people I am internalizing people ideas of how of expectations. Like forget all that. Who are you? What do you have to say? What do you want to say? And allowing every version of myself to express. Like I believe that every version of me is purposeful. Like it doesn't matter what I say in this moment. And then 5 minutes later, if I have a different perspective, like all of that is me. It's some aspect of me and it gets to be expressed. And so freedom now to me is just allowing myself to be unapologetically human. Like I don't get embarrassed. I don't feel ashamed. I don't judge myself so harshly anymore. And I don't judge anyone else for their humanity either. I just think that we're
And
meant to be human.
yeah, and honestly, what does it mean to be human?
Yeah. And I said so years ago, I don't know the name of this book, but I read this book and in the book, the author talks about how like we're all told what it means to be human. And
Mm,
that was like the beginning of me like questioning everything because I was just like it's so true, right? Like we compare ourselves to each other, right? This is norm, this is not normal. And it's like all of it is normal. All of it exists with a purpose. Whether or not we understand it, it has a purpose. And so for me, like being human is literally being human, every aspect of humanity. I tell people all the time, like, I expect humans to be humans. That is the only thing. So whether that means I get hurt in my feelings get hurt in the process, whether that means they yell and scream, whether that means they steal, like, I expect a human to be a human. And right, and that means any expression of it matters. It doesn't matter. So
mm.
there is no
So
limit
being,
to what it looks like.
yeah, because when I think about what it means to be human, I think about being like true to yourself.
Hmm.
But honestly, like that probably doesn't even encapsulate the whole meaning of what it means to be human, because that's only like part of it. There are some parts where we like get lost in ourselves, or we don't know what we want, or we do things that we probably were not good for us, but we did it anyways. But that's still aspects of being human in itself. So
Exactly.
to your point, it encapsulates everything. It
Hmm.
encapsulates the goods, the bads, the uglies, the whatevers.
Yeah.
That's all about being human and being yourself.
That's the human experience, right? Even us being conditioned is part of the human experience. It's all part of it. So nothing is exempt. I used to have a friend, he's a Leo sun, I'm a Leo. We were like so much alike, and he used to always be like, you contradict yourself all the time. And I'm like, no, that's your perspective of what's happening. But I'm myself all the time. And you just can't process the fact, Capricorn moon, you just can't process the fact that like I'm all over. Like I'm chaos. I am structured chaos. And that's just what I am. I don't know what else to tell people.
Hey, we love a self-aware queen that knows.
Right. And I think that that's what it comes down to, right? Like for me, this whole journey of remembrance isn't so much about being perfect. In my opinion, it's about like, I know I manage my ego. I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm okay with saying, damn, I let my ego get a little out of hand there, right? Like I can name it and I'm at peace with it. Like I'm not trying to hide behind, I don't believe in flaws anymore. I think everybody's perfect. Like, I really live in a world where it's
Mm.
like everything is allowed.
I want to get into, okay, there are two things that you brought up that I want to get into. But to your point about how you believe that there's no flaws, everyone is perfect,
Mhm.
what do you mean by that? Because that's an interesting statement.
So like, okay, so what started making me think about flaws, I watched the show on YouTube where basically it's a dating show, right? I love people watching. I am obsessed with humans because I think it's just so interesting how we need to understand everything and like we box everything and it's so fun because it's just like okay. Other
Uh-huh.
things are true still, despite what you believe. And one of the questions is always like, what are your three flaws? And it's this idea that people have to have flaws. But the issue with flaws is
Mm.
like, it's subjective, right? Because you may see something I'm doing as a flaw, but it's something I'm completely at peace with. So who determines what the flaw is? Is it you or is it me?
Mm.
Right? You are only seeing me from your lens of what it means to be human. So you are just an observer in my world. You don't get to dictate my humanity. So you can only say like, oh, in my belief, in my the worlds I'm a part of, like that is not okay. That is not kind. That is not this.
Yeah.
But that's just your business, right? Like that has nothing to do with me. You're just project, right? We just project on each other, and it's not a judgment. It's a part of the human experience. That too is
Yeah.
part of being human, and it's like not holding so much weight to this idea that you have to be this way. So you may see something as a flaw that I don't see as a flaw. So, but we get to decide who gets to decide what the flaw is.
It all comes back to this idea of communicating one another with one another and also our own perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Because to your point, sometimes I feel like the biggest conflicts happen because we're observing the same situation, but in completely different ways.
Yeah.
And so what you may think is a bad or good thing or whatever, I may think the complete opposite. And
Yeah.
that's where the conflict happens. So it's so, again, it comes back to like, it's so fascinating how like humans interact with each other and like the almost like sociological like ways in which we work is so like, it's so fascinating because
That's what
sometimes
I'm saying.
you can have relationships with people where like you have absolutely nothing in common, but like the way that you communicate makes sense. But then there's other people where you're the exact same person and it just doesn't work. Because that
Yeah.
actually makes me think about like my relationship with my mom. Because growing up, we fought all the time
Mhm.
because honestly, we were the same person, but we just never saw eye to eye. And it was only until later in life when I grew up when I realized like, oh my gosh, all these things that my mom said to me or what she was trying to do was at the end of the day in my best interest. Then again, there are some things that she regrets saying and doing, which is fine. But I think it was like me maturing and then us almost like reconnecting to realize that of, okay, we are the same people. We think so similarly. How about let's like communicate in a way where we can like help one another and uplift one another rather than butt heads all the time.
But
So always so fascinating to hear
yeah,
that.
and that's why I am obsessed with humanity. I'm obsessed with just like it's just funny to me. Anytime I see people in disagreement, and I know this from my lived experience, right? This isn't just about like, well, I just see people doing it. No, because I've been that person. I understand energy, and that's what I usually can feel. And the issue I've often seen is like everybody's trying to get everybody to see their side, and that's the issue. Like, who cares? And so instead of us being able to, so I believe that we all have a truth, and I believe all of our truths are correct. I
Mm,
believe that within this idea of a void or where we all exist, I believe we all exist in this void, right? Like we're all consciousness, the same consciousness is running through all of us, just at different frequencies, but it's the same energy, whatever. And so I feel like it all is a part of the absolute, right? Like none of us, research is one of those things I talk about all the time because I'm like, it's not absolute, right? Like y'all can quote me numbers all you want. I've been behind the scenes of a research project is not what we think. Okay. So it's not what a lot of people think it is. And so all of it is truth, but it's just not complete because there's so much more we don't know. There's so much more that we're not aware of. So until we get that piece, it's still not going to be complete. And so I think all of our truths are truths. They all exist. They all have some truth behind it, but it's not complete. And so a lot of times I'm really into human design, and human design has taught me a lot and given me a lot of language for things I've always felt. And one of the things is recognizing where our intentions come from when we are in conversations. Now, if I'm talking to you, trying to force you to see my point of view and trying to control, that's where the tension is going to hit, right? Because now I'm pushing up against you. But if I'm saying something from a place of service, right? I have no weight in the game. I can care whether or not you take it. You won't notice that it just flows. There's just love behind it. There's just an ease behind it. But when you're trying to convince someone and make them see your side, y'all gonna keep bumping heads. But when you let that part go, where it's just like, listen, this is my truth. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to agree. Okay.
have you ever watched Survivor?
No, I don't think so. I know what it is, kind of.
Yeah.
But are they in the forest? No, no.
They're like they're on the beaches of Fiji or like in the jungle.
Okay, so yeah,
But
I know the idea of it, yes, but not fully.
yes. So essentially, Survivor is a reality TV show where a bunch of strangers they get put on like an island and you get like no food, you get water, and that's basically it. And you have to fend for yourself. But you also get broken up into tribes, and then the tribes compete against one another, and then you have to vote out your teammates. And then at the end of the show, they like crown the sole survivor. But the reason why I'm bringing up Survivor is because everything that you're talking about is so layered and is actually shown in real life examples on Survivor in the
Okay.
sense that the reason why the show, which I literally have like a Survivor buff right here, which is like their signature, what all the tribes like wear for to recognize your colors and whatnot. But the reason why it's gone on for so many seasons is that every single season is so vastly different because you're getting this random group of strangers and they're basically choosing the game for themselves based off of their own dynamics with one another. So it comes back to this whole idea of like sociological, like social
Mhm.
interactions, human interactions with one another and seeing the different dynamics. Because one dynamic where you have it could be like a single father and like a young girl, like they could form a bond versus like in another season, like those two people may not even click at all, even
Okay.
though they're
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
similar, they're similar characters in a way. But it would actually be so interesting for you to watch because I think you would really appreciate the different like human interactions and like the intentions behind everyone because people are like lie, cheat, steal. Some people try to stay really true to the game and true to themselves in it. So it really plays with human interaction. And I
Yeah.
think you would really love it. Also,
So
there's
I
like
love I
a
love
bunch of other
social experiments.
aspects, but
No, I love social experiments. And that reminds me, I used to watch Big Brother. I was like a big fan of Big
it's
Brother.
so in line with that.
Yeah, I was such a big fan. Like, I'm obsessed with humans, and not from a place of, like, I'm just intrigued, and I'm like, when are we all gonna see like we are all the same? We all want the same thing. It's just like we just have different backgrounds and we're conditioned differently. Yeah, so that's why
Yes, totally.
a lot of things just don't bother me because it's just like I understand it's about conditioning, and then the other part is like survival. We're
Yeah.
taught that we have to survive.
A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about your journey of remembrance. And
Mhm.
I wanted to know like what is a journey of remembrance? What does that mean?
Okay, so it's healing. So you know how everybody's talking about healing, 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 and shadow work,
Yes.
right? So I don't. So when I first started my awakening journey, right, I had like this dark night of the soul is what they call it. I got to a place where I externally I had everything, but internally I literally wanted to die. Like I was like, I can't. I was exhausted. I was like, I can't keep living like this. And I heard a voice say like, you don't have to, like, this is a choice. You don't have to live like this. And it's when I left my job. I just left everything. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I basically just started on this journey of like, I told my therapist, I was in therapy, and I was like, I need to find security in myself. I had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. I was just like, that was just what was coming out of me. And she was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But that is what is being said. Like, that is what my higher self is saying. I need to find security within myself. Um, and so like this journey of remembrance for me is like we don't need to heal. There's nothing to fix. The reality is like for me, we just need to remember who we are. We need to remember that we are conditioned. We need to remember that we can condition ourselves. So we need to remember how we actually operate, why we're here, how we came to be who we are. And so I talk about managing the ego a lot. And so I talk about that journey of how the ego is developed, and then the awakening when we realize like, hold on, I'm not this ego. I'm not these beliefs. I'm not my emotions. Like I'm not my feeling. Like I'm none of these things. Like they're just part of my human experience, but I'm not it. And so like that's what the journey of remembrance is. It's a constant remembrance of self, is a constant like questioning everything, right? Like say for instance we were to get into a disagreement, right, and I'm furious and I'm angry. My anger is not about you. It's something within me that is out of alignment with my truth. So instead of like me projecting and being like, you making me cry, you are being this, I go within myself and I'm like, what in me is out of alignment, right? And I start getting curious. And so I take complete responsibility for my experiences. It does not matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what anyone outside of me is doing. Anytime I'm activated, that is my inner work, which I've been calling like alignment assignment, right? Is my invitation to go within and be like, what is out of alignment? What isn't my truth, right? And I can be telling the story of people are always disrespecting me. That's not my truth. That's a story, but that's not who I am. Like I'm already whole. I'm already complete. I think about people who believe in God, right? Like one of the things I think about God is like, if you saying that God is in me and God don't have problems, how can I have problems, right? And so I start questioning this idea of problems and
Mm.
struggle, and I literally just question everything. Anything that does not feel like anything that activates within me, I question. For me, that is the journey of remembrance. People call it healing. I don't think there's anything to heal. I just think you're just remembering like, hey, that's actually not my truth. Hey, that's actually someone else's voice. Like, when you start second guessing yourself, people believe in, I don't even believe in that imposter syndrome. I know it's real for some people, but I don't resonate with that. But even that idea is like, where did that come from, right? Who voices are you actually hearing?
Yeah.
When you say that you're not ready, when you say that, oh, I'm not as good as them. How? Who says, right? Like, who voice is that? And so for me, that journey of remembrance is a constant just questioning anything that's not in alignment with you. And it's not in alignment because it'll stir something up in you.
Mm. I feel like there are so many things that you just said where I was like, yes, like totally, totally agree. And one of the things that you brought up about how like the people who believe in God, or there's something along those lines.
Yeah.
I recently did a podcast recording, which is by the time that yours is posted, this one will also be posted.
Okay.
But it was with a woman who's based out of Nigeria, and she grew up as a pastor's child, and so
Mm.
she was talking about her relationship with God, and we were unpacking that. And at the end of the day, she really said like no matter what happens, like it's really between like you and your relationship with God. Like it's between you and him, and that's it. And I think to your point about how we kind of just have to like focus on ourselves and do our own like inner self journeys. We cannot be worried about all the excess that's going on. Like yes, we can like intake it and like let that process, but at the end of the day, the work is going to happen within us. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't happen within us, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And even like the concept of God, like, I feel like we're all talking about the same thing, right? So I use a whole bunch of words. I'd be like God, source, energy. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I can
yeah.
say whatever, right? But I'm also someone who doesn't get caught up on language because I can feel my truth. I can feel it in me. So I know when something is true for me or not. So I don't need to argue with somebody about words, right? Like, but it happens. And I've also been that person who um journeyed as a Christian, right? Believed in Jesus Christ, right? And I think that everybody is a Jesus, right? Like, I'm like, we're a different calling. We're all here. I believe we're all here to share a message. And whether that message is like the source can express as a dog, source can express as CHARLiiE, right? And like how that expressed through me will look different from you, but it doesn't mean that it's less than or more than or better than. And I think that's why I think that everything is like perfect. And I feel like no one outside of you can tell you what it means to be human. No one outside of you can tell you what your purpose is, because part of the thing is like you actually need your internal compass to let you know what's correct for you and what's not, right? Your emotions are signposts. So we know that emotions are sensations. So you actually have to feel something to know, like, all right, something doesn't feel right here, something doesn't. So no one outside of you can tell you that. Like, that is something that only you, and that's why I think it's so important for me to, when I'm in this work, my goal is always to guide you back to your voice. Like, I don't care about, don't listen to me. Don't listen to I don't have advice. I could just tell you what I've been through, but that ain't got nothing to do with you, right? Like, some will resonate, some won't, but something I say will wake something up in you. But the whole point is always for you to go back within yourself. I don't know nothing about you, like about what your purpose is or what your story is. And I think that everybody's always in their purpose. So it's not like a thing. But I think part of our purpose is to have a well lived life according to us.
Totally.
So whatever that looks like, whatever job that consists of, I don't know nothing about all of that, right? So I just don't think that it's like this one direct story. For me, it's more about you just listening to your inner voice. Whatever is telling you to do, I don't get into all of that, right? Like, that ain't none of my business. It's just more so about you trusting yourself and just
Yeah.
continue to practice that.
I wanted to go back into our topic about freedom and what it means to be free. So, the question for you is, in your opinion, what does it truly mean to be free?
Say, in this human experience, right? Because at the end of the day, we are here to have a human experience. And with that, I finally understand the idea of having a soul with a body. So to be free is to not allow the things of this world to limit my experience as a human, right? And so that can be, right now, that can be like, I don't live in survival mode, right? Like, if I don't want to work, I'm not working. And I care nothing about how these bills get paid. Like, that's none of my business, right? So being free is really about like being able to express the divine through me, being able to be who I feel called to be in every moment, right? Because I'm constantly growing in awareness. So I'm not everything I'm gonna be. So, but it's like in every moment to be able to say yes to my calling, yes to my heart, yes to what feels aligned, yes to what I prefer in that moment. So being free is just like about that, not like allowing the conditioning to dictate what my experience look like. I think that's like the gist of it now. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not bogged down by all these stories.
No, just focus on you. Do it your way, as you
Yeah,
said.
yeah. And like all these stories don't matter. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I say I don't know a lot, but what I really mean is like I don't have the words. But yeah.
Yes. And I recently came across this Instagram reel where this person was listening to another podcast, and that podcast interviewer asked like an amazing question that stuck with her. So she shared it with us, and I want to share it with you.
Okay.
And I believe it comes from Sahil Bloom's podcast that he has. And the question that he asked on the podcast was, if you were the main character in your own movie, what would the audience be telling you to do?
Oh my gosh.
Kind
That's
of a
so
deep
good.
question.
That is so good. Because it depends on who's in the audience, right? The audience
True.
that is coming from a place of fear will be like, no, no, no. They would be calling me stupid. Probably they will be like, she's delusional. But people who are similar in alignment with me would be like, oh my god, yes. They'll be like hyper and be like, yes, 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 keep going, believe in yourself. Like anytime I'm stepping back, they'll be like, go, no, bitch, go, don't stop, it's there, you're almost there. I feel like that's how it'd be. They'll be like, girl, you're almost there. Like you don't see it, but you're there. Keep going.
It would
Because
be like
on the
mixed
outside, you can see
reactions.
further than I can probably see inside of it.
Yeah.
So,
But to your point, I guess like if it was the most like mixed group of people that were watching your movie, there would be people that would be like rooting for you and telling you like freaking go, and there are other people being like, what the hell are you doing?
yeah. Because it's all about the perspective. Something I say a lot. So I recently started back my podcast, Charlie's Truth audio blog, because I can't guarantee I can record videos all the time, but I can talk a lot. Okay. So in it, I talk about all the time how I come to realize like not everybody's nervous system can handle my truth, right? Like if people knew how I lived, it would stir people up. They'll be projecting how I'm silly, how I'm lazy. Cause like, I feel like when you have several degrees, right, you have this background, people feel like you should be doing something very specific. Or you went to college, so you have to do this thing, right? No one really talks about the fact that, like, we never had a chance to actually explore who we are before we started making these choices. And we've been told ever since we were like young till 18 what makes you successful and what you have to do. And then when you go out in the world and you do all that and you realize that's not who you are, it's like, your whole world has been pulled from under you and now you got to figure it all out, right? So I feel like people don't see all of that and they just get straight into their own fears, right? Like because they're not living their truth, because they're not willing to, they don't have the courage. If, listen, y'all, this is not a judgment, this is just thoughts, okay? If you don't have the courage to live your truth, if you don't have the courage to sacrifice this idea of security, um, or you're not brave enough to like really say F all of this, I'm doing what I want, and being able to trust yourself and trust source that you're always going to be provided for, when other people do it, you project on them. You tell them that they're the problem. You tell them that they're silly, right? If something doesn't go well, you automatically assume that they fell. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea. Sometimes things look like failure, but it's actually a pivot. So it's like we draw conclusions about things from where we see it, but it's like you have no idea. The story, as long as I'm alive, my story is still being written. So you have no idea what's happening, but we all see it. I've lived in this world enough to see that like people will project on you. They will tell you that you're wrong because it doesn't look a certain way, or you're doing something that they also want to do, but they don't have the courage to do. And so like if they can't do it, you can't do it either. You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm mindful of that. And I had to realize like everybody nervous system can't handle what I'm doing, and that's okay. But I'm also not going back and forth with y'all about my life. I'm gonna die. Like I'm gonna die someday, and I don't want to die not living. That's wow.
Mm,
So
you brought up
yeah,
also to that is I also recently had a conversation with a hospice chaplain. Do you know what a hospice chaplain
right?
is?
Because they're about to transition, right?
Yes,
They're
they
getting ready.
help people transition to die, like to death. They
Yeah,
help them
yeah,
through
yeah.
their
To
dying
wherever
journey.
wherever we going after this.
Yes, and I talked to her truly about like death. We just had the whole conversation about death. And like to your point, we're all going to die at some
Yeah.
point. So we might as well like live it up and do what we want to do because at the end of the day, like we're all going to turn to dust. So might as well do it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So what happened this month specifically? I do want to like add this because I know we are about to wrap up. Is that like the message kept coming to me like you're going to die. You're going to die. And not in
Oh,
a morbid way, but in a way like every time I was about to worry, it's like worry is not going to change anything. You're going to die. Like you have this moment right now. The future is a fantasy. The future is not guaranteed, girl. Like live now because you worrying about tomorrow when you don't have no issues right now. So you worrying about problems that haven't even come that you don't know if it's gonna come. You already thought about the what ifs. Move on. Like it's nothing you can. No amount of worrying is gonna change that. And it was just reminding me like you finally got your full schedule back. You can do whatever you want. And here you are worrying about what if. No, babe, live. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not guaranteed this health. You're not guaranteed your ligaments working. You're not guaranteed any of this. So what are you doing? And it really goes back to about 3 years ago. My dad transitioned. My dad passed, and he died before he could even collect his first social security check. And I thought about the fact how hard my dad worked, how long he worked, how much he was waiting for us one day, someday to retire. And he didn't even get to enjoy it. All of that. You know what I mean? And like his death just woke me up because I've never had anyone die. And I never experienced someone I love and like transition. And so this was someone I adored who I felt like he was he was like the most honest person I knew because like despite what people saw as flaws, my dad lied a lot. He stayed lying. He'll be like, "Oh, I'm coming." He ain't coming. "Oh, I'm gonna give you some money." He ain't giving you no money, girl. Mm-mm. He had like 15 kids, girl. He'll call his girlfriends, have us on the phone with his girlfriends, like using us when we were younger to like get them to know like, "Oh no, I'm with my kids. That's why I can't come see you." And so he would come pick us up for a little while, get us on the phone with his girlfriends, tell them their whatever story he wanted to tell them so he could be set free for the day. So I think about like all of that and I'm just like he lived his truth because he also knew that everybody knew how he was moving. So
mm,
it wasn't, so I think about all of that. That was somebody who lived in their truth where the world would have judged him and told him like he's this, he's that, he's not a good man and all these things, but he thought so highly of himself. And that was enough. Yeah. And then when he
mm,
transitioned and it was just like 1 minute we were talking on the phone and then 2 days later he's gone.
yeah.
And no one cared. There was no bill collectors calling us. He didn't get to take his clothes with him. He didn't get to take none of these judgments with him. Nothing went with him. So it's like when I think about stuff like I can't ignore that. And everyone moved on like he never existed. And so
Mm,
why do I care what anyone think of me when I know at the end of the day you don't really care? All you care is just a good distraction for you. It's just something so you're not focused on yourself. But like you don't really care what I'm doing. You don't really care how it's impacting me. And even if you do, it's not anything you can do about it. If we're being
mm,
honest. You can want better
mm.
for me and all of that, but you can't really do anything about the consequences and the output of like my input. Life is going to life. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we try to prepare, you can't control everything. And so I've just been learning so many lessons just about the reality of this experience, and it's like it gives me more reason just to free myself from all of these rules and regulations and these expectations to be like, what the fuck do I care? That's too much weight, and it ain't got nothing to do
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, I will say I'm sorry for your loss, but I too actually a lot of what you said, it sounds like a lot of the truths and like your father being unapologetically himself. I feel like you kind of took that in for
Mm-hmm.
yourself over the past couple of years, and that's like the journey that you've been on. Which to my last question is, what have you learned over the past year that you're going to take into your new year of life?
That I'm going to die someday. I think it became real for me. I know I'm not scared of death, but I never really thought about it. When I tell you it keeps coming to my mind and it makes me laugh because it's just
Yeah.
like, it's so it's the honest, I'm not going to be here someday. So I look around my apartment, I'm a maximalist, okay? And I'm like, all this stuff I have, like, I can't take none of this with me. So I have to enjoy it, right? And I just want to enjoy my personality. I want to enjoy my ideas. I just want to enjoy and do everything. I want to, as soon as he passed, I knew right away. I was like, I want to experience as much life as possible, right? But in that, there was a lot of letting go of like the rules and regulations, the fears I still had, right? I still will have this idea of security through work. And it's like, girl, that's not real. Like, you've seen people get discharged out of the military with less than 24 hours notice. What are you talking about? And so it's like realizing all these things. So I've been letting go a lot. And I feel like I'm definitely in a season where I'm just like, I'm doing what I want. Like, I'm going
Heck
to
yeah.
die someday. And I can't take my money with me. I can't take these clothes. I can't take anything with me. So I think the only thing that's coming with me is my soul. Because the body clearly ain't coming with us either.
You got to
So
live it up now while you can.
I know. I was like, I have to enjoy this part. Because even if we reincarnate, I'm not going to get this body again. And I'm definitely not going to get this personality. And this personality eats. She eats. So I just want to enjoy her. I want to have the time of my life with her. And so that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And just keep remembering the truth of who I am and going towards the edge every time, right? Going past my comfort zone and being uncomfortable and just fucking leaping as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my dad, I definitely yesterday I was crying a lot and not planned or not like from a place of sadness, but like I just kept thinking about him because I'm like I got into this program recently where they basically it's like unemployment help you get unemployment while you're like building a business. That's a whole other story. The system is the system. Okay. You get unemployment while you're building a business, and the business I'm building, like, it just reminds me so much of how unapologetic he was, and like how much I felt like he was literally like, "Girl, do this. Like, you can do everything. Everything you said you was gonna do, you can do." And this is scary, but like, you can do it. And it's all about living ethical, and that's basically what he lived as. Like, even if we didn't agree with him, like, you knew what you was getting.
Yeah.
And I feel like me and him, we mirror each other and we have the same initials. And so, like, my business name is even like, I changed it yesterday and it's tying into like our initials. And it's just like, yo, the way life unfolds is just like, wow. Like, the way everything comes together is just, I'm just obsessed. I'm obsessed with this whole experience and I just want to enjoy it and not like allow other projections and beliefs to like limit my experience anymore.
And enjoy it, you
Yeah.
will. Thank you,
Yes.
CHARLiE, so,
Thank you,
so
Al.
much for hopping on this podcast. I love your energy that you
Thank you.
brought. The conversation was amazing, and I hope a lot of people that were tuning in like learned a thing or two, or also reacted like I did, where I was like, mm-hmm, yes, like everything you were saying, yes.
Thank
I
you.
like to end every single episode with a quote. And I usually pick the quote before we even record, which is kind of like this quote is very fitting to our whole, like the conversation that we ended up getting into. And the quote is, the only real prison is fear. And the only real freedom is freedom from fear. And that is
Mhm.
from Aung San Suu Kyi.
It's so true. Oh, I gotta sit with that one. Oh, I gotta sit with
Yeah,
that one. Yes.
we'll let it sit. Well, CHARLiE, thank you again for
Thank
joining
you,
and thank you
Alex.
everyone else for tuning in.
Thank you. Sending you all a hug. Thank you.